Welcome to Changing Higher Ed, a podcast dedicated to helping higher education leaders improve their institutions. With your host, Dr. Drumm McNaughton, CEO of The Change Leader, a consultancy that helps higher ed leaders holistically transform their institutions. Learn more at changinghighered.com. And now, here's your host, Drumm McNaughton.
Thank you, David. Today, I get the opportunity to welcome back David Marchick and Angela Virtu from American University in D.C. at the Kogod School of Business. David is the dean there at Kogod, while Angela teaches business analytics and AI. In January 2024, David and a committee of faculty members launched an initiative to integrate AI at the business school. They established the initiative in 6 weeks and in 6 months had incorporated AI into all majors at Kogod, ensuring all graduates know how to use AI platforms and tools ethically. These new AI-integrated majors launched in fall 2024 and have been universally accepted by faculty, students, and external stakeholders, including being named one of the top 10 schools to watch 2 years in running. David and Angela join me today to talk about the changes that have happened, along with where they're going and how you can and need to implement these changes at your institution. David, Angela, welcome to the program, or should I say welcome back to the program.
Thanks very much.
I'm looking forward to a good conversation and hearing what Kogod has been doing in the last year and a half since you were a guest on the program. At that point, you had just started or was right in the middle of an initiative converting your courses over to be AI with a focus on, using it throughout. A lot of water's gone underneath that bridge, and you guys are doing fabulously. Before we get into it, please give us your backgrounds, if you would. Remind our guests, where you came from and what you do.
You start, Angela.
Hi. I'm Angela Virtu. I'm a professor in the IT and Analytics department here at Kogod and the associate director of our AI Institute. And before I joined Kogod in this professor role, I was back in industry being a data scientist for a whole bunch of startups.
Wonderful.
Dave Marchick, I'm the dean here. My job's to support people like Angela, be their cheerleader. And I've had 3 different careers. I was in the government for Clinton and Biden. I was a lawyer, partner at a law firm called Covington and Burling, one of the leading law firms in the world. And then I was one of the senior people at the Carlyle Group, which is a big investment and private equity firm, and happy to be doing mission-oriented work to support young people.
Great. Thank you so much. A little bit of background on the initiative. I'm sorry, I'm just jumping right in here because I'm so excited about this stuff. Tell us a little bit about Kogod and how you got started with AI initiative, some of the things that you did, et cetera.
So this actually started at a cafe about a mile and a half away. When I first became dean, I was talking to a friend of mine named Karan Bhatia. He's one of the top guys at Google. And we've just known each other forever and support each other's careers, and wonderful guy. And he said, well, okay, how can I help you? And I said, I'm not a technical person. Angela actually knows what she's doing. I said, I don't know anything about AI, and I think it seems like it's going to be big. This was prior to ChatGPT, blowing up. And he said, well, I'll help you. And what he did is he came to school and spoke, and he also brought a colleague of his, the president of Google, Kent Walker. And Kent basically said, AI is going to be as profound as fire, electricity, as the Industrial Revolution. And he talked about its impact. And I walked away from that meeting going, all right, let's say that that's a little hyperbolic, but if it's 1/1,000,000th true, AI is going to be big, so we got to do something about it. And I went to our faculty, not being a technical person. I said, let's do something about this. And they said, all right, we'll form a committee. And my eyes rolled back and maybe stomach churned a little. I said, okay, committee, let's give them 6 weeks and they can come back with 5 pages. I don't want a 2-year committee and, 100-page report. So they came back and basically said, let's infuse AI into everything we do, into each program, major, minor, each department, so marketing, analytics, finance, et cetera. And let's retrain our faculty and let's be kind of AI forward. And we've done that. And Angela really has been one of the key catalysts. She's trained our faculty. She's driven the culture. And first year, we probably had a few hands up for volunteers among faculty. Second year, we had 30 or 40% of our faculty kind of buying in. And then third year, we had a tipping point, and now we're 90% of our faculty are using AI in the classroom, and it's revolutionized the way that we're teaching and students are learning. And we won an award last year for the best AI program in the country, and the citation said that we had undertaken the most consequential transformation in business education. And really proud of that. And Angela has really been one of the key leaders in this, and she can talk about it more than I can.
But Angela, before we get to you, because I really want to hear about this, I want to hear more about how you navigated through shared governance with this, because I am sure, and I'm sure being on the other side of the coin, you will have seen a lot of what needed to be done to get this through faculty and get to that tipping point.
Let me give you very brief, and then Angela can talk about this better than I can. It was both a top-down and bottom-up strategy. And there was a post on X yesterday about AI, and it cited a very prominent professor from Wharton who said, AI transformation in organizations is not about technology, it's about culture. And I think the most important thing we did was change the culture, and Angela can talk better about that.
Yeah, please.
So to Dave's earlier point, I think a lot of our early momentum was really coming from the top down, right? Dave would come in, he would energize the entire group, talk about this really big picture idea of how we want to start thinking about using AI. But at the end of the day, it's a whole bunch of change management to actually encourage our professors to engage with this work and then do all of the EPC actions and actions for curriculum reform and learning objectives and all of the nitty gritty operational stuff to actually go from this big picture idea to actually doing it. And so in addition to all of the trainings and socialization, both big and small group, one of the key things that we did is we really relied heavily on our core undergraduate curriculum course coordinators. So we have about 14 classes with 14 leads, one for each of those classes. And we leaned pretty heavily into them in order to have them get more energized with using AI within their core course. Because then as we then expanded out to all of the other professors who are also teaching that same course, and they could start using AI, and maybe they then start using AI within their research and they start getting more comfortable with the technology, we then kind of like wildfire have the support to have that cultural change.
Yeah. And I understand that, getting to that tipping point from a change management perspective. But what intrigued me was, David, you said you gave the faculty 6 weeks to come back to you, which is almost unheard of for a faculty committee to come up with something like that. Did you have to provide any stick and carrot, or did you just say, this is what we're going to do and go there? A lot of it had to be top down, but you had to get the buy-in to do it as well.
It's a really good question. And I think that probably I come from the private sector. I'm not an academic. I don't have a PhD. I don't have a business degree. And we moved fast at Carlisle. So I'm sure that the people on the other, as much as my eyes rolled to the back of my head when they said we're going to form a committee, I'm sure their eyes rolled to the back of their head when I said, okay, you have 6 weeks.
I can imagine.
One of the things that I did when I was recruited for this job is I think any good leader is aware of their strengths and weaknesses. And when I interviewed for the job, I said, here are the things I can do well, but I'm not an academic. I've never managed faculty. And I want to make sure I have a team of people around me that are better than me at the aspects of the job that I'm not good at. And luckily, I have colleagues at Parthivan David, Ayman Omar, and Casey Evans, who are the 3 deans. We've added one other, Sarah Maddy, kind of the three faculty deans in the dean's office with responsibility for faculty, undergrad, grad, and then now kind of special projects and new strategic initiatives. And they're good partners, and they're like, okay, this is what he wants to do. Let's figure out a way to do it within our governance. And it worked. So I feel lucky to be at a school where the faculty is really, really innovative and creative. And, as Angela can tell you a little more, there's been so much change and adoption that we can't even keep track anymore. So we used to count the classes that had AI, and now we have to try to count the classes that don't have it. And I actually asked Angela before you got on, like, what's going on in this part and this part? We actually don't know because there's so much innovation, and we're having a hard time keeping up. That's a pretty good problem to have.
That is a darn good problem to have. And so thank you. I appreciate that, because one of the big challenges that I see in most organizations is faculty want to move slower. They want to study things more. So, having the leadership in place and to be able to drive this is critical. Angela, you started to get into the three big changes that you've seen going forward. Culture change is absolutely one. That old saying, and I can't even remember who said it. Culture eats strategy for breakfast and lunch and dinner in many institutions.
Peter Drucker.
Thank you. I knew somebody would know it who was in a business school. So culture change in the undergraduate curriculum was critical. There's some other critical things that have been done to embed it, to make it work as it's supposed to.
Yeah. So culture change, I think, is the biggest one, because without that, we never would have had the catalyst to actually achieve the other two. Mm-hmm. The next one, which is our next really big project that we're tackling, is actually figuring out the AI assessment piece. And this AI assessment piece is really two different components, because right now we've been using AI in all of our classes, and we now need to figure out, is it working? Is it helping our students? Is it hurting our students? And can we quantify that impact? So first layer of the AI assessment is the way that we're bringing AI into our classrooms and into the curriculum beneficial? The second layer to this is we want to now start leveraging AI, not just as this learning outcome, but as a new tool or new methodology to help us assess that learning process. And so that's very much an untapped market right now. I think all of the institutions that we've talked to in the past, they all are like, we have no idea how to do this. And so that's our next big rock that we're really trying to tackle, is getting some more grounding on this concept of AI assessment.
So pardon me if I'm being a little facetious. You're going to use AI to see if AI is actually working? That can't be true?
Potentially.
Really?
So one of the things that we're kind of looking into is, right now, our traditional assessment methods of these learning outcomes are things like exams, very knowledge-based, maybe a project. And so one of the techniques that we're trying to assess, is there a way that we could not AI-proof those assessment methods, but is there a newer way where we could have AI help us assess that student learning? It's not to say that they're going to replace teachers at the moment. It's not going to replace all of our grading, but is there a way that we could put it in that process to help us evaluate how are we doing?
Fascinating. I'm obviously, I don't get this excited about a lot of technology stuff, but this one really has me excited.
Yeah, it's at the cutting edge for sure.
Yeah. And then when we spoke a couple of days ago, you told me about the third big change is how you develop and you teach courses. Tell me more.
So we, at the moment, are really challenging the idea of the role of the educator in the classroom, where we're really trying to move away from this lecture-based classroom style to having the professors become more of a coach. And so we have one incredible fellow named Tommy White at our institution, and he has completely developed a course that has no readings, no textbooks. And in lieu of that, he gives all of the students prompts. And he has each student go through this entire prompting exercise to get readings and get videos, and everyone is going to get slightly different readings and materials. And then when they come to class, They have the same topic, but different articles, and they can get together and discuss and challenge each other's ideas. So he's done that at like a 100 level class. And then in one of his other classes that are entrepreneurship based, he's literally having students use the AI prompts to help them refine a business case, build a business, and basically create their own business from scratch. Dave might want to add something else to that.
The other cool thing we're seeing is, this is one of my main priorities for this year, is non-business students taking classes and becoming the equivalent of technical. So we have a professor, Kelly Frias, who's a professor of marketing. She teaches kind of an advertising marketing course, which has been taught forever at business schools. But this is not your father's advertising marketing course. It's mostly non-business, non-quantitative. Someone said it was like, dyed hair, nose ringed, tattooed students. They're non-quantitative, and Kelly has them programming and building a portfolio of apps in class to create social media campaigns, to measure social media impact. And I went to the final presentation of the class in December, and I was just blown away. These are all students who basically said, I never want to take a math course. I never want to do anything quantitative. And they're leaving the class knowing how to program and write software using AI. And it's just incredible.
Give me an example of an outcome from that class.
Okay, so the traditional advertising marketing class, as your final project, you might be asked to write a marketing campaign or conduct some basic consumer research. That's your final project. Here, Kelly went way beyond that. You have to develop a marketing campaign, you have to do consumer research, but you're actually creating your own software or apps to solve the problem that you were asked to solve. So it went way beyond just writing a piece of paper. It was actually implementing a tool. And she brought in a small business client for the class. This small business kind of sold T-shirts and sweatshirts and pajamas to college students. And they had ambassadors at 75 college campuses who would promote their clothes. It might have Tulsa or, Miami University on the sweatshirt. And the students created tools for the brand ambassadors to create and post social media postings. And then they created an application for the owner of it to kind of monitor, a dashboard to monitor the effectiveness of amount, quality, and impact of the social media campaigns. So she could compare, this person at the University of Georgia is doing a great job, but this person at X university is not doing as much. And so they delivered these tools to the client for the class, and the client was blown away. She's like, I thought I was going to get, a piece of paper that said, here's some things you should think about for advertising. And they actually created a tool that I'm going to use in my business. It's just incredible.
That is incredible, especially with, and I'm going to take it to a big picture perspective. Right now, there is so much angst in the marketplace about graduates not being ready to join the workforce, et cetera. And what you're doing is going way beyond that. You're basically training them how to use the tools of the 21st century to get beyond, those basic level skills. You're really training them and positioning them to be successful using AI in their entire career.
Exactly. And I think what we're doing is we're combining three elements: the fundamentals of every subject. So you still need to know accounting and marketing. You need to know the fundamentals of those classes. Then you add AI to that. And it's not just about the AI tool. It's about being AI curious and having an entrepreneurial mindset to figure stuff out. So we had Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, here, and I asked him this question. I said, well, which AI tool should we be using? Should we be using chat? She would be using Perplexity, Copilot. And he says, well, of course, I want you to use Microsoft products. But the most important thing is actually not what product they use. It's having them feel comfortable experimenting and testing and trying new tools, because by the time they graduate and by the time they're in the workforce and then over their life in the workforce, the tools are going to change. So it's really about the mindset. And third is we have doubled down on what traditionally were thought of as soft skills, but now we call them power skills, which are oral communication, the ability to think on your feet, the ability to work in groups, critical thinking, all the stuff that we all have done for our professional lives that, when I was in school, I never had any projects to learn with other people or to work in groups or to oral presentations. Those skills are lifetime skills. And I tell students, I'd rather have you mess up an oral presentation in college than in a job.
Yeah, I get it. And you've got these embedded in all your courses. Has this changed how you can look at GE courses, general education, embedding that in there? Because you're talking about all those different skills that you would learn in GE, not necessarily working in teams, but critical thinking, analyzing data, et cetera. Is this changed the structure and the pedagogy, your general education classes?
So I don't know if it's necessarily changed the general education courses, but I think the way that we're thinking about it from the business school perspective is how we can kind of build these AI and communication skills scaffold throughout the student experience. Mm-hmm. So alongside with our really big AI push, we've kind of updated all of the undergraduate core curriculum. So our first year students, it's a combination of foundational business skills and business courses, but it's also building in the foundation of their AI literacy. So like we teach them how to use AI, how to be skeptical of AI, how to use it, how not to use it, and really kind of setting the tone. In year 2, we then go deeper in those core business skills while also going deeper into AI. So now it's not the intro course, but now it's domain specific, where we can think about marketing and finance and accounting and how AI plays into those domains. And then when you get to years 3 and 4, it's really kind of an open field for the students where they're kind of done with their foundational AI and undergrad business courses. And that's where they can go into their major specific deep dives in the domain areas that they're interested in, from their knowledge bases, from their AI infusion of those courses. And then we end with the 4th year capstone, where it's kind of all 3 of those pillars combined into one big project, where they work on their communication skills, they work on their knowledge of their finance, accounting, marketing, and then they also layer AI into that project.
Wow. That is amazing. And my mind is just spinning at this point with the possibilities, going to a 3-1 bachelor's, master's, looking at changing around the entire GE course format to where you can actually go into learning some of the core skills that you need to under the guise of your GE courses and a 3-year bachelor's. I see all sorts of possibilities with this. I'm sorry, I'm just really excited.
And that's one of the things we're really excited about too, is we've actually introduced an AI minor. So we're now actually trying to use some of our courses that we've developed to really branch out to the broader university, because one of the biggest areas we see AI transforming is the healthcare space. And so if we could get like our biology students or pre-med students to take this AI badge, like they would be more than ready for their med school applications when they get there.
Wow. And of course, AI will fill your med school application, right? No, I'm just kidding.
There could be a draft.
A draft.
You have to have a human.
You bring up a great point, David. AI is not the end all to be all. It still needs the human intervention. It still needs the critical thinking that a human can do. AI isn't necessarily there.
Correct. And I think that one of the things that Angela and Dean Casey Evans designed is we start our teaching on AI by teaching what's wrong with AI and how not to use it before we teach what's right and how to use it properly. So we believe that AI can be a collaborator, a partner, an assistant. At some point, it'll be an agent. But ultimately, a human has to be in the loop before, and it has to be in the loop at the end. That AI cannot be a substitute, but it can be an additional tool.
Mm-hmm. Again, I am just blown away. Now, you've seen some great results from all this. You'd mentioned, named to the top 10 schools to watch for 2 years in a row. What's it done to your enrollment?
So our undergraduate enrollment has taken off. We're up 40% over the last 3 years. Our applications are up 50%.
Wow.
There's a lot of excitement. And when we do, student webinars and, welcome students and families, this is pretty much all they ask us about. It's really created a buzz.
Wow.
Grad enrollment is, the grad business environment is very tough right now because of a variety of reasons, including the kind of downward pressure on visas. So grad business education is heavily international, as much as 50%. So, every school in the country is seeing some negative downward pressure in grad. We're seeing more positive than we would otherwise without AI, but grad it's a much more challenged market.
Mm-hmm. And I can easily see that with all the things that are going on out there. You had mentioned before, 94%, 90+% of faculty or professors are using the tools, and 100% of your courses have AI incorporated in them. How has this changed the way students learn?
I think it's put a lot more ownership on the student to kind of dig deeper and investigate in a way that it wasn't before. So kind of in the example I was talking about how Tommy's been structuring his class, like knowledge memorization isn't necessarily the end all be all that it used to be, right? Yeah. And our jobs as the professor isn't necessarily just curating content, right? AI can curate a ton of really high quality content for you. And so now the skill set is how do we sift through all of this information that's at our fingertips, and how do we know what to do with it and how to ask the right questions? And so I think it's challenging the students in slightly different ways than maybe perhaps it did 5 years ago. If we think more traditional academia, where you could just take your notes from the professor and read the PowerPoint slides or the readings and like you're done and you don't really need to think about all of the other interconnectiveness. So I think more of the power is on the students now, which is both scary and empowering at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I'm reverting back to my old faculty, assessment, Bloom's taxonomy, level 1, knowledge and understanding. You've essentially blown that out of the water. People need to be able to read something, say, yes, this is true or it's not true. But the tools that you're teaching folks and that they're learning is taking them right into the analysis portion. And that's where the real critical thinking comes in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would agree.
So those are some of the things, changing the pedagogy, faculty, your enrollment's up. What are some of the other positive results that you've seen from incorporating the AI as much as you have?
Well, I think it's brought a lot of, positive halo effect to the school. We've had wonderful press coverage, front page of the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg Business Week called us the first AI first business school. We were featured just the last week in the Financial Times.
Wow.
Washington Business Journal. So, it's brought a lot of positive exposure. We've recruited 6 AI faculty. So that's been a significant investment. We have, 85-ish faculty. So, almost 10% of our newest faculty are AI focused. It's enhanced the productivity of our scholars. So they're using AI to do, research. I was talking to one professor today who's a very distinguished scholar, and he said, AI is kind of like having a PhD student in some ways. It's wonderful to help me be more productive. The other thing is that I think that there's just a general level of enthusiasm and energy and a bounce in everybody's step at school, the faculty, the staff, and the students around what we're doing. We feel like we're at the cutting edge, and we're honestly making stuff up as we go along. And that gets back to the point that, Angela said at the beginning about culture. The thing we're most proud of is the cultural change, because our faculty are just making stuff up and trying things, and if it doesn't work, they just pivot. So we've created a culture where experimentation and failure are encouraged, and if something doesn't work, just try something new.
That is incredible. And that is one of the keys to a great entrepreneurial college is the willingness to fail, learn from your mistakes, and move on.
100%.
So when we spoke before, you said you were hitting scale and you're going into phase 2. So what's next? I mean, you've got all these accolades. Things are really going well. You've changed how students learn, how faculty teach. These are all incredible things that are needed in higher ed. What's next?
So we're thinking about a few things, and we're working on a few things for this year. Number one, I mentioned, which is really creating opportunity, or Angela mentioned, creating opportunities for non-business students to get a minor, certificate, or badge in AI. So, you're a public policy or political science student and you get a minor in AI. You're going to be pre-med or pre-law, you get a minor in AI. So you go into those professional schools having AI skills. Number two is the point that Angela mentioned, which is around assessment of learning outcomes. So learning about AI and learning with AI. We are working a lot with a lot of the leading technology companies on new experiments, on disseminating best practices. And then as technology changes, right now, the last few years, everybody's been focused on the foundational technologies, the infrastructure technologies, ChatGPT, Gemini. Now you're going to see the proliferation of domain-specific apps in marketing, in accounting. There's going to be a podcast AI tool. Every different function in society is going to have its own AI tool. And we want to introduce those into the class so that when a student graduates and wants to go into be a podcaster, they have 6 or 7 different podcast apps on their resume. And then the other thing we're kind of toying with is, can we create a structure where at the end of when a student finishes school, they have a portfolio of AI tools they've created in the same way that a photography student, an art student, a dancer has a portfolio that they can show of their creative works? How cool would it be for a business student to be able to have the fundamentals of business, AI, all the professionalism and communication skills we're teaching, plus they can say, here's 5 apps that I've created to show future employers that I can make stuff, I can figure out problems, I can create something. And if you hire me, I'm going to be creative and entrepreneurial in figuring stuff out for the company in which I work.
Wow. You're on the cusp of reinventing education. As we used to say in the Navy, bravo Zulu. Kudos to you.
Thank you very much. I'm not doing much. It's really, my job is to empower people like Professor Virtu, who actually knows what she's doing.
Well, it takes a good leader to be able to do that. So not only to you, Angela, kudos, but David, you as well. You guys have done something incredible here. And I just hope that there are more institutions who can learn from what you've done and go in their own directions with it.
Thank you for having us back.
My pleasure. 3 takeaways for presidents and boards. What do they need to know in this new AI age that if they want to establish programs, they've got to do it?
Culture, training, technology. What do you think, Angela?
I agree. The only other thing, and maybe this is more of a tip, I've been hearing a lot of chirps lately in my circles of people who've tried AI, 2 years ago, and they weren't super impressed with it, or it didn't work, or they weren't happy with it. And we're really in this period of exponential technological growth, which is really hard for us to kind of wrap our heads around, like what that means. And so if you kind of are one of those people who are just a little disillusioned with the technology, give it one more try if you haven't tried it in the past 6 months, because all the updates that have happened last week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, not that long ago, has like really big strides in what you can do with the technology now. And I think that might help broaden your horizons and like what's possible.
Great. Thank you. What's next for you? What's next for Kogod? Besides what else you've said?
Well, we are intensely focused on 4 or 5 areas: AI, entrepreneurship, sustainability. We're starting a new sports management program. And the main thing is to help our students be successful. That's what we wake up every day feeling inspired and motivated by the mission, which is knowledge creation and helping our students.
Great. Well, David, Angela, thank you so much for being back on the show. You couldn't tell I didn't enjoy this. I'm just over the moon with what you guys are doing. I look forward to hearing more about it in another year, 2 years, see where you've gone from here.
Thanks so much, Drumm. Thanks for having us, and thanks for what you do.
Thanks you. Thanks for listening today, and a special thank you to my guests, David Marchick and Angela Virtu. Folks, it was great having you back on the program. I look forward to the next time we get to talk about AI and all the great things that have happened at Kogod. To my listeners, thanks again for tuning in. See you next week.
Changing Higher Ed is a production of The Change Leader, a consultancy committed to transforming higher ed institutions. Find more information about this topic, along with show notes on this episode at changinghighered.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the show, and we would also value your honest rating and review. Email any questions, comments, or recommendations for topics or guests to podcast@changinghighered.com. Changing Higher Ed is produced and hosted by Dr. Drumm McNaughton, post-production by David L. White.